Good morning, my lovely stars. I hope you are all doing well this morning. And today we are going to be doing a Aquarius reading, but from a Southern Hemisphere aspect. And I will also link in how the Northern Hemisphere sometimes affects the Southern Hemisphere as well. So let's dive right into this reading. And as the sun enters Aquarius, the tarot invites us to sit with the currents moving beneath our lives and in the wider world. Here in Aotearoa, the Southern Hemisphere, summer is beginning to ease. The energy slows, inviting reflection, integration, and observation. But in the Northern Hemisphere, energy is expanding into summer, outward and maximal. This contrast reminds us that shifts in one part of the world ripples into others. Systems move in cycles, and our attention does matter. Aquarius asks us here in the South to observe these patterns, to notice the intersection of local and global currents, and to ask, where does my action, my reflection, or my awareness meet the larger flow? So let's just take a deep breath. Hopefully things aren't moving too much today here on the boat. It's a little bit calmer because we really had a rough last 2 days on the water. And thoughts go out to everybody here in Aotearoa that's been affected by the floods. My thoughts, my prayers, and love and light to all of you. So let's have a look and see what the cards hold here. As per usual, will be 11 cards, and I will start with the first 5 and then move on to the next set. So let's have a look and see. Okay, what is Aquarius going to tell us through tarot this morning? The Star. And the Star card here is connected to Aquarius, so the cards are definitely listening. Oh, Tower in reverse. Our lovely 8 of Pentacles again. 2 of Swords in reverse. Page of Cups again. Okay, let's leave these here and let's have a look. The Star card, I want to say, brings clarity, hope, and insight. And it's emerging into different currents. Here in the Southern Hemisphere, late summer, we can see people invite quiet observations. We're observing what's happening on the world stage, and we're seeing how it's going to be affecting us. And I think globally, we're going to see new initiatives with regards to renewable energy, maybe a hydro or something in those lines. There's going to be some focus on climate policies. And I think I've got a little problem here with the Star card. Let me just fix it. And technology, as I said. And there's also going to be collaboration with regards to that. And often, these things are led by the Northern Hemisphere expansions, but it definitely affects the Southern ecosystems. And it reminds us to follow the path of our ancestors, observing how local actions contribute to collective flow. And see here, I'm talking about the flow here. And I'm going to ask the question, where do you notice quiet opportunities or patterns? And where do you see them emerging? Leave a comment what you think. Let's move on to the tower. And I just want to cover up my little sticky thingy didn't last with shuffling. So the tower here in reverse suggests a disruption without a collapse. Structures are, I would almost say, are bending rather than breaking. And as summer is easing here in the south, energy gives space for integrated change. I don't know why this red and this blue stands out again for me. Somebody is seeing what is coming. They've got their hands up, they're going to brace their fall. They're not going to go flat on their face. I don't know. And in the Northern Hemisphere, as we know, there's political unrest, economic shifts, and that ripples down to the south. And it's creating challenges, but it's also openings for adapting. And we've seen here in the south how we've had to adapt to what is happening with trade and tariffs and all that type of stuff that's happening up in the north. So there's definitely, it does affect us. No matter which way you have a look at it, it does affect us. And in Maori wisdom, it reminds us that change is critical. Things can't stay the same. The Maori knowledge honors the flow of life and natural cycles. And it's asking us, where can we respond with, I always want to say, awareness rather than a reaction. We need to be aware of what's going on and don't just jump and react. Because if we just jump and we react, it can actually lead to a full tower moment. This is a warning that we need to be aware of all the change that is coming. Our Eight of Pentacles again, it keeps telling us that we need to steady ourselves. We need to be deliberate with our efforts. And we consolidate what we've learned before winter. And that we will see when Matariki is coming up later on this year. And I'll do a whole thing on that. And I think what it's also telling me about the Northern Hemisphere and globally is that infrastructure and I don't know why it comes to mind, ecological projects are emerging. And whatever is emerging in the Northern Hemisphere is definitely going to affect us here in the South. And that can be anything from trade to resource access. And currently we are seeing that we are, here in New Zealand, trust me, we've done nothing to anybody in America, especially in the USA, but we've been hit with tariffs as well. And we've had to adapt. We've had to find other markets as well. So what's definitely happening in the north is definitely affecting us here as well. And not just us. I mean, I think Australia is in the same boat as what we are. And Kaitiakitanga, I always struggle with this word, and I want to pronounce it, and just keeps twisting my tongue. Kaitiakitanga. Kaitiakitanga reminds us that, and that's our ancestors, reminds us that skillful stewardship of knowledge and resources and craft is essential. And we just need to have a look and see what efforts benefits from being patient and mindful, and we need to focus this season. We need to focus on what is important, be it bring back manufacturing to your country, be it buying locally, supporting local, and that also goes, maybe starting your own veggie and fruit garden. Go back to basics. And again, what is in the background there almost tells me that we must forget about what is happening in the I don't want to say the cities, but where decisions are made. We need to focus on what we can do, on our skills, on our knowledge. And then we've got the Two of Swords here in reverse. And as we all know, this signals avoidance or indecision. And it's not that we're avoiding stuff here in the Southern Hemisphere, but the energy favors reflection and facing polarities is easier when life is slow. And northern global conflicts or tensions influences the decision making. And I think it's highlighting the need to weigh options very, very carefully. Because also, we can't see clearly what's at the end of the tips of that sword. If we just have a look at the sword goes off the edge there, and we don't really know exactly what is happening. And also the moon is also obscured, where we don't know what is going on. So we need to try and figure out a path, choosing a path. But it's actually a double-edged sword that a lot of people are facing. And I think Maori thought encourages seeing all perspectives and honoring the collective before choosing a path. Look what is best for the people in your life first. Have a look and see what is best for your country first before you worry about anything else. And it's also about what decisions I think you as an individual, you as a person, you as the viewer are avoiding. And what clarity can actually come from actually facing them, actually turning it the other way. But it needs to be done slowly. It needs to be done easily, not rushed. And this Page of Cups, a little curious little fish jumping out of there. The fish is curious, and the page is curious. And it also almost want to say that there's openness. Nothing is hidden in that cup. In New Zealand and the Southern Hemisphere, the reflective energy allows us to tune into emotional or creative signals. And as we can see in the north, there's grassroots movements and social initiatives. And this, I think, offers guidance and also inspiration for southern communities. And here in New Zealand, we've got our elections coming up on the 7th of November. And with the current state of affairs that there are in New Zealand, I think a lot of people have actually been very surprised at what had come, what had not been done, what has not been achieved over the past 3 years. And I think what is happening in the Northern Hemisphere is actually opening up the eyes of people, especially here in New Zealand, showing them where we need to not go, what we need to look out for. So there again, I can say to you that this is how the Northern Hemisphere can influence the Southern Hemisphere. And we need to notice the guidance that is emerging from the worlds around us. And we need to see what new feelings or connections are beginning to emerge. Not just for the collective, but for you as a person in its own. What is emerging? Let's have a look. Let's look at row 2. There we go. 6 of Wands. Hermit in reverse. Interesting. Ace of Swords upright. And we'll have a look at what the underlying is in a moment. The 6 of Wands is actually highlighting not victory as such, but progress, ripple effects. And whatever victories we have here in New Zealand sometimes goes, or in the Southern Hemisphere for that matter, sometimes and often goes unnoticed globally. But it still contributes immensely and meaningfully to all the larger currents of the world that is happening. And it's almost like victories and stuff that are happening in the Northern Hemisphere with regards to certain policies and inventions will, to an extent, ripple south, creating opportunities for collaboration and adaptation. And here I'm not just talking about the USA. Here I'm talking about what is happening currently in Europe, with the European Union, with NATO, etc., etc. There's some changes coming then. And I almost not want to predict, but what the cards are telling me is that there is going to be some sort of victory somewhere. And recognition is not just about how it impacts the collective, but it's also honoring the efforts beyond itself. And it's asking you what actions of yours are creating a subtle but meaningful ripple effect. Your victory or a country's victory or the will ripple through to the collective. And this horse is looking right at us and it's saying, take notice. Take notice. And it's almost that something new is going to be growing out of this. And here we have old Hermy the Hermit. And it's in reverse. It is almost blocking reflection. It's resisting to pause. But autumn that is coming up here in the Southern Hemisphere encourages slowing, but it's also activating within people the avoidance of inward gaze. In the north, societies may rush ahead, but here in the south, the Southern Hemisphere, it benefits from taking quiet stock. And it reminds us to step back, and it allows perspective, and it allows perspective, and it almost honors the ancestral guidance. And where are we as a people? Where are we as an individual avoiding reflection? And what could insight bring if we just pause for a moment, if we just stop for a moment, and we just do a real deep dive into us, into our own being? Ace of Swords. It shows me that there's breakthroughs. It's bringing us insight, and it's decisive. And it is almost saying to me that it's decisive understanding. And reflection here in the Southern Hemisphere allows ideas to emerge, while the Northern expansion shows new patterns of innovation. Tefutu, the guiding stars, reminds us that clarity helps navigate both local and global currents. Are you ready to cut through confusion and outdated patterns, is what it's saying? Are we going to make a decisive change? Are we going to make a decisive decision? Are we going to face this? And look how it's sitting under the Two of Swords there. And with the Six of Wands underneath the Tower here, it's also telling me that, if we take heed of the warnings, we will be successful. Let's move on. Let's have a look. What more is there? Nine of Cups reversed. Four of Pentacles again. It's underlying. The Emperor. How many times has this Emperor shown up? And look at that video I did on my red warnings and why the Emperor appeared. I will link it somewhere here in the top. Let's do that. Just leave it there for a moment. Nine of Cups. In reverse, highlights dissatisfaction or misalignment. And Southern Reflections helps notice this emotional gaps or imbalance, especially I always want to say as if the Northern Hemisphere's abundance seems distant. Mauri, life force, reminds us to consider what truly nourishes the heart beyond surface comforts. Because material stuff can disappear. And what brings genuine nourishment to your life this season, be it south or north. And then we've got the Four of Pentacles here again, upright. And it emphasizes stability, holding space and stewardship. Energies invite grounding and preparing for winter. A northern hemisphere, it can be expansion that can create resource imbalance that affect the southern systems. And it's highlighting the need for careful guardianship. Kaitiakitanga reminds us to protect. Our ancestors remind us to protect what sustains life, community, and future generations. And I think we've been told to be stewards to our resources and be stewards that are responsible. We need to hold on to what is dear to us in every country. And let's have a look. What is this last card before we get to the Emperor? The World again. It shows completion. It shows an interconnectiveness and cycles. And from a Southern Hemisphere, it reminds us how local actions can ripple globally. And the northern currents continue outward expansion. It's an interconnected world, and it reminds us that all life is linked. And what we do here in the now, in the current moment, in this Aquarius season, resonates elsewhere. How does it resonate elsewhere? How do your actions connect with larger cycles and in the collective system? Look at this Emperor here. The Emperor tells us here that we need to be stable. We need to be fair. We need to be rigid with what we decide to do, because what we are going to decide now, after contemplation, can affect so much that is happening. And it's almost telling me that we've got to be very careful and we've got to watch what is going on until Aries season. So this energy is going to be expanding, and this Aquarius energy might actually last until the Aries season. So take stock. See how governments actions are affecting the world. But it's telling us that we need to be careful. It tells us that we need to not just rush into things, but we have to make a decision at some point. An Aquarius season invites us to observe and reflect and have conscious participation. Be that going to vote, making your vote count for what is coming up, both in the USA and which other country is having elections, and also here in New Zealand, where we are going to the voting stations. It's telling us that we need to guide us and focus on our leadership and how our leadership can actually change things. Notice emerging possibilities, which is the star here. Look for shifts. Apply your skills. Face your choices that you're avoiding to face. Listen to your intuition. Recognize the ripple effects. Pause like the hermit. Embrace clarity that is coming and align emotionally. Steward the resources and see the systemic integration, and watch closely what leaders are doing. And let's quickly have a look here. Let's get one last message here before we close. So, that card wants to come out. Battles. From the Southern Hemisphere, we are watching people constantly defending themselves. And how is that defending going to affect us here in the South? See there, that's north and this is south. But also, look how his leg is standing on two different continents. This is almost like an attack on the west, on the eastern side of the north. It's almost like an attack. And that attacking from the west is making everybody in the south take notice, because that might affect us here in the north as well, in the south as well. And that is directly underneath the emperor. Watch what emperors are doing, because that might affect outcomes for us. And it's telling me where is global currents influencing local systems. How can your actions ripple without destabilizing flows? Which choices or reflections honor yourself and spirit and the season? Where's your spark being nurtured or overlooked? And how can you ask your guides and the ancestors to help us participate and steward? Aquarius season is about observing, reflecting, integrating, noticing the currents, honoring cycles, and consciously participating in the collective flow. And I hope this Southern Hemisphere perspective has given you guys in the north and here in the south a little bit of perspective on what to do and what to look out for. This is not fear-mongering. It is just to guide us and see what might come and what we need to look out for. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Have a lovely day. And I will see you online soon with Siggy said, ask ChatGPT. All the best until I speak to you soon. Bye.